Members of the board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you and welcome to the fifth commencement. أصحاب السعادة مرحبا بكم في حفل التخرج الخامس لجامعة الأخوين. Before we begin, may I just ask you please to turn off your mobile phones as they constitute a disturbance to the rest of the audience. أرجو منكم إطفاء جميع الهواتف النقالة لما تسببها من إزعاج للجميع. Vous êtes priés d'éteindre vos téléphones portables. Merci. Our ceremony will begin with the deans entering the building, followed by the faculty of Akhawayn University. The deans and the faculty of Akhawayn University now enter the building. يدخل الآن إلى القاعة السادة العمداء وهيئة تدريس الجامعة. While the faculty are being seated, may I please remind you once again, if you have forgotten, just to turn off your mobile phone, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests, parents, ladies and gentlemen, please help us all welcome the graduates of Akhawayn University, the class of 2002. دخل الآن إلى قاعة الحفل الطلبة والطالبات خريجي فوج 2002 لجامعة الأخوين، فرحبوا بهم مرة ثانية من فضلك. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will start our ceremony with brief readings from the Holy Quran, and that will be read by the Imam of our mosque. خير ما نفتتح به حفلنا آيات بينات من الذكر الحكيم يتلوها علينا إمام المسجد الأستاذ سليمان الخنجاري.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب. قل يا عبادي الذين آمنوا اتقوا ربكم للذين أحسنوا في هذه الدنيا حسنة وأرض الله واسعة إنما يوفى الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب. صدق الله مولانا العظيم.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of trustees of Akhawayn University, chancellor of the university, will now deliver his address to the graduates. يتفضل الآن رئيس مجلس الأمناء لإلقاء كلمته التوجيهية أمام الخريجين، أستاذ عثمان بن جلون.
Avant de commencer mon allocution, qui sera en anglais, comme à l'accoutumée, je voudrais vous dire combien je suis ému et enchanté, comme chaque fois que je me trouve dans cet auditorium, de voir ces jeunes étudiants et étudiantes qui vont recevoir leur diplôme aujourd'hui après plusieurs années d'études, de voir les professeurs qui leur ont donné la connaissance de tout ce qu'ils ont appris, et les parents d'élèves qui sont là, les personnalités et les amis membres du conseil de l'Université de Akhawayn. Your Excellencies, Advisor to His Majesty the King, Sir David Walker, members of the Board of Directors, President Ben Mokhtar, faculty and staff, graduating students, family members and friends. Through this speech, and for the fourth consecutive year, I have the privilege and honor of inaugurating the commencement ceremony of Akhawayn University. As a man of business and project, it is a renewed pleasure to find myself in front of representatives of a university and intellectual elite in Morocco and the Mediterranean area, most of whom are about to enter professional careers. Dear graduates, you are ambassadors of a new genre. First of all, ambassadors of a healthy and innovative design of transmission of knowledge, ambassadors of academic, pedagogical, and linguistic tolerance. You are also the ambassador of a university from the ambition of a great king His Majesty the late King Hassan II, and the ambassadors of a reality cultivated by His Majesty King Mohammed VI, that of an institution open to the corporate world, its foreign counterparts, its immediate environment, here in the mountains, a university open to the disciplines in its quest for authentic universality. Ladies and gentlemen, I seize this occasion to pay homage to the patient and persevering action nourished by profound faith undertaken by this institution's bodies, its board members, and by the president of the university, Mr. Rashid Ben Mokhtar. This morning, we will have a chance to measure through Mr. Ben Mokhtar the multidimensionality of this action, which anchored the university in the academic landscape, not only of Morocco, but also of an international level. As an illustration of this opening onto the world, we will have the privilege of listening to Sir David Walker, presently Senior Advisor of the prestigious financial institution Morgan Stanley, of which he was Chairman and Managing Director. His exceptional career path began at the British Treasury more than 30 years ago, and since then has been marked by multiple financial responsibilities and occupying key spots nationally and internationally. Sir David Walker's presence among us today is in itself an act of support for our university, as he will provide us with his guidance as trustee of the development foundation of the renowned Cambridge University. I would also like to praise the quality, commitment, and devotion of the members of faculty and staff who bring their rich experience from diversified geographical horizons in order to give substance to our ambitions and projects. Dear faculty, you have left your mark on the spirit and on the heart of the students you have taught. Our congratulations are also addressed to the parents for the sacrifices they have endured, initially in preparing their offspring to reach the university, because it is not easy, and then to have accepted other financial and emotional sacrifices to allow their beloved children to become the graduates of Akhawayn they are today. Rest assured that our investment in education is the most significant you can ever make. As financiers, we measure the value of return on investment, and yours is incommensurable. The return on education, our ROE, is priceless. Dear graduates, today will remain in your memory as a moment of happiness when you found yourself in an atmosphere of fusion, of symbiosis, of camaraderie and friendship. This part of your life is unique because it was devoted to receiving knowledge, to cultivating critical thinking and communication, and to learning how to learn and how to live together. You have been served. The whole organization functioned with you and for you. These moments are all the more unforgettable thanks to the bonds woven with the university, bonds which the mark of time cannot erase. Dear graduates, be thankful for opportunities you have had here for training and intellectual development during your academic years. For, alas, lack of time and the great responsibilities in your professional and personal life may never again enable you to do that. For this reason, it seems essential that my first recommendation to you be that spirituality, the culture of the faith, belief in religious and ethical values represent the guiding vector of your life. Only a week ago in Fez, along with eminent personalities including Mr. Mike Moore, Director General of the World Trade Organization, we enjoy extracting ourselves from our respective roles to reflect on globalization. Together, we managed to conclude that the phenomenon from interpenetration of economies, societies and cultures, characterized by the instantaneity of exchanges, the mobility of humans, goods and services must have a soul, a finality, a direction. This meaning can only be carried by spiritual values, among which those of tolerance, solidarity, freedom, and opening. This requirement for spirituality, consider it as a first requirement with respect to oneself to enable opening and dialogue with the other. My second recommendation is to instill in one's action the concept of sharing, the sharing of information and training, the sharing of ideas and values. It is a form of generosity, guarantor in the professional world of efficiency, guarantor in corporate life of its sustainability, guarantor of succession, guarantor of adhesion to the corporate project, whatever it may be. My third recommendation is to keep faith in yourself, faith in the education received, in the education you have benefited from outside your family, faith in action and progress, and for the realization of one's project. Keep faith in the future, achievement of a personal and shared success. My fourth recommendation, dear graduates, is to remain humble in relation to knowledge and to continue learning throughout the course of your life. Do not doubt yourselves, but doubt the intangibility of knowledge. If values are timeless, knowledge is not always so. And my fifth and last recommendation is that wherever you might be, place your action or that of your organization within the framework of the environment you are evolving in. It is a question of keeping in mind that the organizations of men and women must also have a finality, social, human, and cultural. As you must abstract yourselves and rise towards this spirituality, in fact, towards this quest of values, you must also rise above selfish interest in order to serve the community, even to serve the nation. Dear graduates, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all good luck. Good luck for yourselves. Good luck. I wish you good luck for yourselves, for your families, and for the country that welcomes you, and the hopes and ambitions nourished on its behalf and which this celebration underlines. We celebrate our capacity, regardless of our responsibilities and agendas, whether as women or men from Morocco and elsewhere, to gather on what there is of most timeless: education, the relay of knowledge, passing on the torches. Through this event, we are perpetuating a tradition, a Moroccan tradition. Only some 60 kilometers from here in Fez, where the first university of the Arab and Islamic world was founded, it is a 1,000-year-old tradition. in respect for identity and culture, that of opening and dialogue. This ceremony illustrates today the globalization in which this university takes part, given its culture, its international connections, and its academic universality. At the same time, this insertion in globalization has a soul. It cultivates a spirituality founded on shared values. Let us rejoice in this memorable moment that everyone, dear graduates, envies you for and envies you to. I wish you a wonderful future. I wish you faith and light. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. With your permission, I will just take a few minutes to summarize what the Chancellor has just said in Arabic for those parents probably who don't speak Arabic. Who don't speak English, I beg your pardon. Yes, thank you. قال السيد رئيس مجلس الأمناء إنه لشرف عظيم لي أن أفتتح للمرة الرابعة على التوالي حفل توزيع الشهادات. قال الرابعة، الخامسة، ما أنت خلفي، الخامسة. أنا مترجم أمين، سمعت الرابعة أقول الرابعة، هي الخامسة فعلا. حفل توزيع الشهادات على خريجي فوج جديد من هذه الجامعة، ويشرفني أيضا بصفتي رجل اقتصاد أن أخاطب اليوم صفوة من الجامعيين والمفكرين من المغرب وحوض البحر الأبيض المتوسط. إنكم أعزائي الخريجين سفراء لتصور سليم وجديد لنقل المعارف، وسفراء للتسامح الأكاديمي والتربوي واللغوي، وأنتم فوق هذا وذاك سفراء لجامعة انبثقت من طموح ملك عظيم هو الحسن الثاني طيب الله ثراه، جامعة منفتحة في الوقت ذاته على نظيراتها في الخارج وعلى المقاولة وعلى محيطها المباشر. أغتنم هذه المناسبة أيها السيدات والسادة لأتوجه بالشكر الجزيل إلى السيد رئيس الجامعة وإلى مجلس الإدارة على عملهم الدؤوب والمتواصل في خدمة الجامعة ولضمان انفتاحها على محيطها وعلى العالم. وكمثال على هذا الانفتاح سيكون لنا كبير الشرف أن نستمع اليوم إلى السير ديفيد ووكر، كبير مستشار مؤسسة مورغان ستانلي المالية الدولية وعضو مجلس إدارة جامعة كامبريدج المرموقة. أحيي بهذه المناسبة أيضا هيئة التدريس بالجامعة على التزامها وتفانيها في تكوين طلبة الجامعة، وأهنئ الآباء والأمهات على تضحياتهم من أجل تكوين أبنائهم وبناتهم، وأريد أن أؤكد لهم أن الاستثمار الذي قاموا به في تربية أبنائهم هو خير استثمار يقومون به على الإطلاق، لأن مردود الاستثمار في التربية لا يضاهيه أي مردود. أعزائي الخريجين، إن هذا اليوم سيبقى خالدا في ذاكرتكم. إنها لحظة سعادة غامرة بالالتحام والصداقة. إن هذا الجزء من حياتكم فريد لأنكم خصصتموه لتلقي المعرفة والعلوم وربط الصلات في الجامعة. إن من الضروري، وهذه وصيتي الأولى لكم، أن تشكل ثقافة الروح والإيمان بالقيم الدينية وغيرها الموجه الأساسي في حياتكم. وصيتي الثانية لكم هي أن تجعلوا من اقتسام المعارف والمعلومات والتكوين والأفكار والقيم قاعدة من قواعد سلوككم. وصيتي الثالثة هي أن تثقوا في قدراتكم وفي التكوين الذي تلقيتموه وفي العمل والتطور. كما أوصيكم بالتواضع أمام العلم والمعرفة، وأن تجعلوا من المعرفة والتعلم هدفا ومسعى مدى الحياة، لأن المعارف على خلاف القيم تتغير مع مرور الزمن. أما وصيتي الأخيرة فهي أن تترفعوا عن الأهداف الأنانية الذاتية من أجل خدمة المجتمع وخدمة الوطن. من أعماق قلبي أتمنى لكم حظا سعيدا، لكم ولأسركم وللبلد الذي يحضنكم. إننا نخلد اليوم تقليدا وإرثا عمره آلاف السنين، فعلى بعد 60 كيلومتر من هذا المكان أسست جامعة القرويين، أول جامعة في العالمين العربي والإسلامي. إن هذا الاحتفال اليوم دليل على الكونية التي تساهم فيها هذه الجامعة من خلال هيكلتها وعلاقاتها الدولية وطابعها الأكاديمي الكوني، غير أن لهذه الكونية التي تنخرط فيها الجامعة روحا تتبنى على أسس قيم مشتركة. Now, the President of the University will address the graduates of Akhawayn. يتفضل الآن رئيس جامعة الأخوين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear graduates, ladies and gentlemen. This is a moment long awaited by our students, sometimes with impatience, one of turning one page and opening another. I think it's the French writer Louis Ferdinand Céline who says in his book Voyage au bout de la nuit something like this: the worst of stupidities of the youth is their desire to become adults. Without going so far, I would say that within a small lapse of time, numerous are those among you who will think back with nostalgia and yearning to the years they spent at Akhawayn University. The bad memories, moment of stress, the roughness of the climate, and also the administration at times will gradually fade to give way to moments of happiness, memories of born friendships, to the anecdotes left by this or that professor. There will be found memories in which even the green man will have their place under the sun. Of course, the professional world is different from the academic world. It has its own rules and constraints, but it will also give you other joys and other worries. What university has thought to do during your stay here is to prepare you in the best way possible for the professional life. That is, through courses, life on campus, activities, sanctions, and rewards that have been an objective: to make of you women and men of responsibility, initiative, and innovation, women and men with open and critical minds, capable of building their own judgment and carry out their own projects. It is true that our world is now getting global, complex, and fragile. This makes the future at one and the same time more uncertain and the challenges greater. But it also makes responsibilities heavier and the issue more fascinating. Those of you who will know how to succeed will be those who will be armed with the confidence obtained from successful training and the openness gained from the knowledge of other cultures, other languages, and other beliefs. You graduates of this university have had the chance to learn here several languages. Most of you are trilingual, and some of you master 4, if not 5 or more languages. You have had the opportunity to learn and train yourself through contact with an international teaching staff, to meet here on campus or on the occasion of exchange programs, people from other nationalities and other cultures. Our partnership programs with universities all over the world and particularly American universities, are a real success. And we are particularly happy to have with us today President Joel Trachtenberg of the George Washington University, who came just this morning straight from Washington through Montreal and arrived early morning to be with us at almost time. I also would like to thank to be here with us also Dr. Dorothy Yancey, President of the John C. Smith University, Dr. John Stroll, Dr. John Stroll, Provost of Monterey Institute of International Studies, Dr. Norm Peterson from Montana State University, and his colleague, Director of International Program in the Johnson C. Smith University, North Dakota State University, Idaho State University. I am also very happy to see among us today some of the exchange students who have chosen EY for their summer program to learn our language and culture. Indeed, EY is a place where you have become aware of the importance of respecting the other, where ideas are not taboo and where occasions of debate abound. I can only bring to mind here the extraordinary occasions for self-enrichment which the university has offered you in the last 3 months. Instances of this are the excellent debates opened by Muslim British political figures over the interculturality of Islam in Great Britain during the British days at AUI. And we'd like to seize this opportunity to thank His Excellency the Ambassador Antonio Lydon for having with us for this evening. The role of university after September 11th, organized on the occasion of the Saudi Days with American universities. Conferences such Convivencia and Lost Paradise, organized in coordination with the University of Arkansas. Or, very recently, Faith and Reason, which witnesses the presence of around 30 outstanding scholars in matter of science and religion from the United States, Great Britain, France, and Morocco, organized in coordination with the UNESCO, the Université Interdisciplinaire de Paris, and the SSQ program of the University of Berkeley. These are just so many building stones of this vast enterprise which should make of our university a place of culture and dialogue, as well as one in which knowledge is built, as wished by his founder, the late King Hassan II. Dear students, it is by being armed with this particularity of your university, with the specificity and quality of the training you have received, that you will enter the new phase of your life. You have to know that those who graduate before you have opened ways not only in Morocco, in government and business, but also abroad in the world of business as well as in renowned universities and schools. You can imagine how happy and proud I feel when employers call to congratulate me for the quality and performance of our alumni, and it's happened often. I do hope that with you, the trend will continue or even increase. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, we are celebrating the graduation of 177 students. 88 of them are female, and 89 are male. So I would like to know the one who made the difference. 112 are from the School of Business Administration, 33 from the School of Science and Engineering, and 17 from the schools and 17 from the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. And 10 are our first cohort of the Executive MBA, a special program organized with the OCP, Office Chérifien des Phosphates. Here I would like to thank the OCP officials who made the program possible, and particularly Mr. Abd Hafid Al-Rai, Secretary General of the OCP Group, who is among us today, for his close cooperation and continued support. All these graduates have witnessed the change that have been taking place in their university these last 3 years. They were able to see the swimming pool full and operational. Tennis courts resurfaced, and the library expanding, and the digital libraries operational. They were also able to witness the increase in the number of research projects and the wonderful creativity of those among their classmates who are working on them. What they did not witness, however, are the big and deep pedagogical changes that we have conducted by launching the Center for Academic Development and Skills, CADS, the teaching effectiveness workshops, the first experiences of e-learning, and so on. I would like to thank and congratulate our faculty members who took the initiative and leadership of those projects, whose objective is to do better by leading their students, our syllabuses, and our university toward excellence. Our university is indeed in the winds of change. It's to our faculty members that we owe the success at the academic level and at the level of research. Many programs link us to prestigious universities and renowned businesses. The fact that 2 GE students of our university, Hafida Fouta and Leila Khay, obtained the first prize of Research and Development 2001 by the Foundation R&D is not only a recognition of their efforts, but also a great encouragement to our institution. It has been also our pride and joy that 3 students won prizes in the essay competition organized during the British Day. And now they are Iman Slawi, Wafa Siddiqui, and Hisham Benshkroun. We have also 2 students, but here perhaps I make some mistakes, who also won prizes for a different participation to an essay, and I think to building a website. And it's Tariq Bazaz, and they forgot to put the second name. And Asma Nafaq. They were rewarded this very morning in the presence of His Excellency Anthony Lydon and Sir David Walker, and the member of the board. And other students, I say she's here, Asma Nafar, won the 2nd place in the public speaking competition sponsored by the British Council and the English Speaking Union in Rabat. Okay, it was complete. Not less important is the initiative of an increasing number of graduates who are preparing for the setting up of their own business during their studies. In so doing, they honor their university by their enterprising spirits and self-confidence. Dear graduates, ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing but a brief summary of the efforts that the entire community makes you achieve its objective. Your success. I would like to commend your commitment and perseverance, as well as that of our professors, academic officials, coordinators, deans, vice presidents, the Dean of Students Affairs and Students Affairs staff members, whose contribution to your training is manifest, and all university staff members also. On your behalf and in my name, I would like to thank them. I would like particularly to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Abdelatif Bishrifa. Our former Vice President for Academic Affairs, who has been appointed recently by His Majesty King Mohammed VI as President of Moulay Ismail University in Meknes. I wish to thank him for his exceptional commitment, his perseverance at work, and for his competence. He was for me a great companion, and while I regret his departure, I'm also happy for his well-deserved promotion. At this university, there are people who work behind the scenes with efficiency and perseverance. These are our board of trustees, to whom I express my gratitude for their support, with special reference to Mr. André Azoulay, advisor of His Majesty the King, for his interest, support, and invaluable assistance. I would like also to express my thanks to our Chancellor, President Othman Ben Jelloun, for his active multifaceted, and personal contribution, his effective attachment to the university, and his support for its president. I will not forget the other member of our Board of Trustees, namely His Excellency Khalid Angari, Minister of Higher Education in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, President Joel Stephen Trachtenberg, President of the George Washington University, and Mrs. Marcia Curley, who unfortunately couldn't attend this meeting, who have offered scholarships to our students. I thank them all sincerely. Dear graduates, ladies and gentlemen, in this moment, I would like to share with you my fond thoughts for the founder of this university, His Majesty the late King Hassan II. I would like to express my gratitude to His Majesty King Mohammed VI, the honorary president of this university, whose solicitude for and interest in the university have guided our steps and encouraged our initiatives. God bless him. Dear graduates, my warmest congratulations, my best wishes to the graduates and to their parents. Good luck to all of you, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, with your permission, a few minutes of your time. بعد التحية بدأ السيد الرئيس كلمته بمقولة للكاتب الفرنسي سيلين الذي قال ما معناه: من أشد حماقة الشباب أن يريدوا أن يصبحوا بالغين. سوف تنظرون بحنين إلى الأيام التي قضيتموها أعزائي الخريجين في الجامعة، وتتبخر الذكريات المؤلمة التي ولدتها الضغوط وقساوة المناخ والإدارة أحيانا، لتترك مكانا لذكريات جميلة تشمل حتى حرس الجامعة المعروفين باسم جرين مان. إن عالم الشغل له متطلبات حاولت الجامعة أن تعدكم لمواجهتها عبر الدروس والأنشطة الموازية، والتي كان الهدف منها أيضا تنمية روح المبادرة وروح النقد لديكم. لقد كانت لكم فرصة تعلم عدة لغات وفرصة الاحتكاك بهيئة تدريس دولية سواء داخل الجامعة أو من خلال برامج التبادل مع جامعات أجنبية. لقد تعلمتم احترام الآخر في مكان يشجع على النقاش والحوار، وكانت لكم عدة فرص أذكر منها على سبيل المثال لقاء حول الإسلام في بريطانيا بمشاركة شخصيات مرموقة من بريطانيا، لقاء حول دور الجامعات بعد أحداث 11 من سبتمبر نظم خلال الأيام السعودية، مناظرة حول الأندلس الفردوس المفقود نظمته جامعة أركنسو، مناظرة الإيمان والعقل بمشاركة حوالي 30 عالما من عدة بلدان. ورحب السيد الرئيس بعد ذلك بالضيوف الذين حضروا من خارج المغرب، من الولايات المتحدة، من الجامعات التي تربطنا معها علاقات صداقة وتبادل. كل هذا أعزائي الخريجين يجعل من جامعتكم مكانا للثقافة والحوار كما أراده لها مؤسسها جلالة المغفور له الحسن الثاني طيب الله ثراه. لقد كان لمن سبقوكم دور ريادي، ولكم أنا سعيد عندما يتصل بي مشغلوهم ليثنوا عليهم. يتخرج اليوم أمامكم 177 خريجا، 88 منهم من الإناث و89 من الذكور، ويريد السيد الرئيس أن يعرف اسم الطالب 89 الذي خلق الفرق. هؤلاء شهدوا تغيرات على مستوى المسبح الذي أصبح مفتوحا وملاعب التنس والمكتبة، ولكن ربما لم ينتبهوا لما أنجز في برامج البحث ومراكز التطوير الأكاديمي. ورحب السيد الرئيس أيضا برنامج التبادل الذي يربط الجامعة بالمكتب الشريف للفوسفات، وأثنى على كاتبه العام السيد الرغاي على مجهوداته في إنجاح هذا البرنامج. قال السيد الرئيس: أود هنا أن أنوه بصفة خاصة بالطالبتين حفيظة فوطة وليلى خاي اللتين حصلتا على جائزة البحث والتطوير 2001. هناك 4 طلبة أيضا حصلوا على جائزة التعبير الكتابي وإعداد صفحة الإنترنت التي نظمت خلال الأيام البريطانية، وهم إيمان سلاوي، وفاء صديقي، هشام بن شقرون، وطارق بزاز. أما الطالبة أسماء نفر فقد حصلت على المركز الثاني في مباراة الإلقاء التي نظمها المجلس الثقافي البريطاني. بعد ذلك أثنى السيد الرئيس على نائب الرئيس للشؤون الأكاديمية السابق الدكتور عبد اللطيف بن شريفة الذي عينه صاحب الجلالة مؤخرا رئيسا لجامعة المولى إسماعيل بمكناس. أضاف السيد الرئيس: أود أن أثني في هذا المقام على الجهود الجبارة التي يبذلها أطر الجامعة، أساتذة وعمداء وموظفين ومستخدمين من أجل خدمة طلبة الجامعة. كما أود أن أشكر أعضاء مجلس الأمناء الجامعة، وأخص بالذكر السيد أندري أزولاي مستشار جلالة الملك ورئيس مجلس الأمناء السيد عثمان بن جلون وباقي أعضاء مجلس الأمناء. كما أثنى على الدكتور خالد العنقري والرئيس جورج تراختنبرغ لتوفيرهم لمنح لبعض طلبة الجامعة. أضاف السيد الرئيس: أود أن أستحضر معكم ذكرى مؤسس الجامعة جلالة المغفور له الحسن الثاني، كما أوجه شكرا خاصا إلى جلالة الملك محمد السادس الرئيس الشرفي لجامعتنا الذي يقود خطانا ويلهمنا من خلال الاهتمام الذي يوليه للجامعة، وأتمنى بعد ذلك النجاح للطلبة وأولياء أمورهم. I'd like now to invite back the President of the University to introduce to you our keynote speaker. يتفضل الآن السيد رئيس الجامعة لتقديم السير ديفيد ووكر.
Well, I have to make some kind of improvisation as I have not a formal presentation of Sir David, but I would like first to welcome him at our university. It's a great pleasure and honor for me and for all of us to have him today with us. We made a suggestion just after the British days when we heard about the Moroccan British Council for Investments who was taking place in London at the same time. And at this moment, the name of Sir David was, of course, on the highlights. So I just suggested at the right moment to His Excellency Mr. Anthony Leiden if we can invite Sir David Walker to be our keynote speaker for this year. He, of course, talked to him, and a few days later, he came back with the answer. So David accepted our invitation. Thank you very much. I would not come back on the forum presentation as our Chancellor said what had to be said about his career, but I just want to stress one thing very important for us. Having such a keynote speaker is not only an honor, but it will be for us a good lesson. His experience for more than 30 years and his involvement in the finance of the world, if I can say, with one of the most prestigious companies is something very important. I am sure that he will give you very interesting insights, advices, and probably look about what is happening in our world, and merely with globalization. I think that this topic is in fact a matter of concern of many of us, and it's a matter that probably will influence your career and perhaps your lives in the future. But I know that he's going to speak about that, and please welcome with me Sir David Walker.
Excellencies, Chancellor, President, I was going to say ladies and gentlemen and then dear graduates, but that perhaps implies that the graduates are not ladies and gentlemen, so I won't say that. Well, it's a real privilege to have been invited to address this very distinguished and special gathering, an invitation that I can add to what the President said. I accepted not only quickly, but with enthusiasm. The truth is, vraiment que je suis academic manqué, not really an homme d'affaires. And I love universities, and the one with which I'm particularly associated, which is Cambridge in my own country. But one particular reason for my readiness to accept is the long and very friendly association between these two countries of Britain and Morocco. I understand from our ambassador that diplomatic links between our two countries go back at least 7 centuries, so not as old as the foundation of the first university in Morocco, but a very long time. And our trading relationships may have gone back much further. I haven't delved deeply into the history, so I'm not going to inflict that on you, but I know one very important continuing element, and I'll talk about that in a moment, is that while there have no doubt been aberrations on both sides, in both Morocco and in my country, both of our societies have traditionally been relatively tolerant, as indeed they are today. I'm very pleased also to be co-chairman of the new British-Moroccan Business Council, alongside Mr. Murad Sharif, who I think unfortunately can't be here today. We both, he and I, hope and expect that this initiative will boost in a tangible and practical way, because for this purpose we're running a business initiative, not a debating society. We want to boost in a very practical way trade and investment flows between our two countries to our mutual advantage. But enough of all that. Dear graduates, who are of course also ladies and gentlemen, a ceremony like this seems to me to provide an opportunity to reflect on the environment into which you're entering in your new working lives, whether you plan to seek your careers in business or the professions, in public administration, in research, or in the arts. The world into which you're now moving, and this is the cusp, an inflection point in your whole lives that you look back on and remember, is one that it would have been hard to imagine as little as 10 or 12 years ago. Let me just mention, for purposes of illustration, 2 or 3 features, 2 positive and 1 negative, all very relevant, whichever career path you decide to go for. First, the access to the rest of the world that's been made possible by the internet, in terms both of ease of communication, the email and all the rest, and the ready availability of an almost bewildering amount of content, means that in many ways geographic location has become much less important, not more important, less important than previously. So put in other terms, the possibility of a challenging and satisfying career within a country like Morocco has been dramatically enhanced, in my view, by the advance of technology. Second is the extraordinary economic growth that's been seen in the United States, in particular on the back of the technology revolution, the benefits of which have been spread very widely around the world, not always equitably, I acknowledge, and the success of public policy in managing economies, and in particular in dealing with something which you graduates have probably never really knew much about, but I can tell you in my lifetime was a pernicious disease, that of inflation. Third, now negative, because those were 2 positives, is the extent to which the glacial certainties of the Cold War have now been displaced by the volatile uncertainties and in many ways still more dangerous tensions linked to terrorism and the widespread availability of quite devastating weaponry. Well, when we stand back from this troubled world scene, it's difficult to avoid the conclusion that perhaps the biggest destabilizing force at work, and I'm interested in the roots, not the surface, the most destabilizing force at work today, as it has been for many years, is that of intolerance. Whether that intolerance is aimed at Jewry, Islam, Christianity, or people of particular race, colour, or political persuasion. Intolerance, sometimes cloaked seductively as a commitment to high principles, is a destructive and negative force, and it's also often contagious, as we've seen recently in some major European countries, not excluding my own. Perhaps we can draw some comfort from the words of a contemporary British philosopher and writer, Bernard Levin, and I quote, "In every age of transition, men are never so firmly bound to one way of life as when they're about to abandon it, so that fanaticism and intolerance reach their most intense forms just before tolerance and mutual acceptance come to be the natural order of things." Is it too optimistic to think that we may now be in such an age of transition, away from the intense intolerance that has until now and is still so evident around us? Good news and bad news. At least the recent NATO accord with Russia, signed by Presidents Bush and Putin, is a hugely positive step, scarcely imaginable a decade ago. Sadly, on the very negative side, we see tension increasing, apparently by the hour, between 2 nuclear-armed nation-states in Kashmir. None of us can have a confident answer whether optimism is immediately justified. Well, I chose intolerance as my first theme, not just because we need to be alert to it and of the havoc that it tends to bring in its wake, but also because we can, over time, do something about it as individuals. It can be rolled back if there's sufficient proactive commitment to the counteracting and releasing force of tolerance. It doesn't require a shared faith or agreement to be tolerant. Perhaps most simply, it requires the modesty that we ourselves may not always be right in all respects, and that other points of view may be entirely reasonable and quite likely to be held by others in good faith. We shouldn't delude ourselves that intolerance is only a political matter. The phenomenon of so-called political correctness, where the required correctness goes well beyond the political sphere, is, in my view, an insidious new form of intolerance, which leads individuals or groups to assert some principle to outlaw activities that they don't like. All of this is intrusive and intolerant. I describe tolerance in these terms because I want to suggest to you, in particular, the new graduates, that the working lives on which you're setting out after today's ceremony afford you, as the new generation, with the benefit of an excellent higher education here, the opportunity to display and spread tolerance. You can be change agents. Challenge the intolerance which is the enemy of us all. Opportunities to do this will arise in all the areas into which your careers may take you, because intolerance grows everywhere like a weed and needs to be challenged wherever it's found, whether it's in politics, business, professional, university life, or anywhere else. Theme 1, tolerance. Theme 2, tolerance doesn't mean passivity or uncritical acceptance of what comes our or your way. This leads to my second theme, which is the importance of appropriate initiative, and above all, and I address this in particular to the graduates, the exercise of will. For some of all of us, there's a disposition to be patiently reactive and accepting, perhaps on the basis that is not unfamiliar in the great faiths of Islam or Christianity, that Allah or the Lord will provide and care for us. There's a concept or belief in the faith that I know best, the Christian faith, of all-sufficient grace, which has at times been used to justify minimizing the relevance and potential contribution of individual will and endeavor. Of course, there's the danger that the exercise of will itself involves intolerance, but that's not the inevitable outcome, obviously. I'm not going to lose myself or my distinguished audience in the wilderness of philosophy which sprouts exotically whenever anyone talks about will. But I do want to mention that from my study of history and modest experience, I've come to the somber but very emphatic conclusion that at the level of the individual, and I'm very much addressing this to the new graduates, will is one of the core drivers of our and your lives, often more potent as a force in business and politics and what you can contribute to them than knowledge, intelligence, ability, or ideology. Without will, an individual is likely to fail sooner or later. With will, I suggest to you that it's extraordinary how far a determined individual can go, even when weighty forces are lined up on the other side. We all know that there are abundant good and bad examples in the realm of politics of will coupled with intolerance. But the importance of will is difficult to overestimate in the failures and achievements of our own lives. One way of putting this is to see the disjoint or the disjuncture between the limited product of passivity and mere acceptance and the creativity and achievement of those who have initiative, as I hope all of you graduates will have and will display. There's a sort of globalization paradox here, sitting here today in the premier university of a very attractive, but it has to be said, small, developing economy. It may be tempting to play down the opportunity, even for you well-educated graduates within Morocco, given the pervasive and apparently awesome influence of the global corporation, headquartered in New York or the West Coast or in Europe. How can even a well-qualified graduate like you from an emerging economy such as Morocco hope to break in, so to speak, to the global network? I ask that as a question. Well, I give you my answer. There are ways, and they're for you to find. To deny this possibility that you can break in would be to disregard some key factors in the recent and prospective environment. For example, that a major trend in global corporations, which includes my own, is to outsource major areas, blocks of activity in important value-adding areas of intellectual activity like software development. In the case of my firm, we do software development employing large numbers of graduates in 21 emerging economies, apart from outsourcing also to developed countries. Morocco could be another of those economies where we outsource. In the United States, many of the most creative and successful entrepreneurs in the new technology space are either non-American or first-generation Americans, and the typical age of those who scale the heights of corporate leadership has fallen dramatically over the last few years, and partly because of the forward march of technology, which has very little respect for the establishment or tradition that's represented on the platform here today. If I may speak thus to my peer group, mobility in business in all directions, prominently involving the young, is greater than ever before. So much for business life. But in academic life, to take another possible career track, many of the external influences are similar and similarly powerful. For example, through the possibility of immediate access to research papers via the web on which academics in the States and in Europe generally publish them. The consequence is that serious academics in almost any discipline are bound to be and are able to be attentive in a real-time way to the development of thinking elsewhere. That's in reality the globalization of academic life, and seems to me to bring great enrichment to the thought processes of a university like this, Mr. President, and to those who work here. Plainly, not everyone can be a successful entrepreneur, but I hope that all of the new graduates who are perhaps going to start new businesses of their own are indeed successful entrepreneurs. Not everyone can end up in their preferred vocation in the professions or academic life, but in my experience, few, and none of you will know what you are capable of unless you strive, ready to accept that a reverse or a defeat in one phase doesn't mean that you'll have a reverse or be defeated in later phases. An observing experience in the United States, and to a lesser extent, but increasingly in my own country, society, I think, is increasingly ready to accept that business failure does not mean a failure of integrity on the part of the individual, nor does it exclude or discourage the ability of the individual to pick himself or herself up and start again. So my message to you is to have a vision of what you want to achieve. Try to be clear about that. Then adjust it upwards by several notches as a spur to focus. If the bar you set for yourself isn't high, you won't be stretched. And I submit that from the work you've been doing here in the last 3 or 4 years, you all perform better, and know that you perform better if you're being stretched. And then strive for it with a will to succeed. If you succeed in business, you, your company, and quite likely your country will benefit. If you don't, try again and plan to succeed next time. It's altogether mistaken, and I can't give this enough emphasis, it's altogether mistaken to see globalization and the emergence of major global companies with their massive influence on world trade and all the rest as sidelining or diminishing the scope for successful initiative from within a nation like Morocco. I acknowledge that these comments have been particularly focused on careers in business, where the impact of globalization is perhaps most immediately evident. But I've no intent to exclude others and suggest that will to succeed is just as important in other walks of life. Think, for example, of the luster that can be brought to a university such as this, and potentially the nation as a whole, by an individual whose determined and successful research endeavour in the arts or sciences rolls out a frontier of knowledge. You'll be glad to know, in this last part of my remarks, I want to apply these themes of tolerance and will to the nation state, with particular reference to an emerging economy such as this. Just as we, as individuals, can feel alienated or driven into an inward-looking intolerance in the face of contemporary pressures like globalization, so a nation-state which perceives its social, economic, cultural sovereignty to be under threat can react similarly. The focus of these remarks is on a nation-state that's an emerging economy, but I have to say similar issues arise for a developed economy like my own country, the United Kingdom, where there's, as you know, intense concern at the prospective loss of sovereignty involved in abandoning sterling and ceding more of the country's autonomy in defence and foreign affairs to some European grouping. These particular concerns are regional rather than global, but much the same issues arise. A core question, whether the relevant questions or choices are regional or global, is how much autonomy an individual nation-state can really hope to maintain in a globalised environment, in particular differentiating between appearance and substance. A major and topical feature of discussion in emerging economies and on development policy and all the rest centres on their relationships at present with the major international financial institutions, in particular the World Bank and the IMF. There's currently a very lively debate between those like Joe Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize winner, the former chief economist of the World Bank, who argue that the international financial institutions have been overbearing, insensitive, and just on occasion plain wrong in their approach to emerging economies, and another school led by other prominent economists like Larry Summers at Harvard, former US Treasury Secretary, and Stan Fisher, both former chief economists at the World Bank, who take a more defensive view. Part of the difference of view is about the handling by these institutions of specific events like the Asian crisis in 1997 and 1998, which seemed a long way away from Morocco, but which was hugely significant. But leaving aside the specifics of particular cases, underlying much of the difference of view in this very important policy discussion is the judgment to be made about an appropriate balance, and that's the balance between an understandable and proper concern on the part of the international community to ensure that help to emerging economies is introduced in a disciplined way, in a disciplined framework, and on the other side, to respect local culture and tradition. Let me set this in a historical context. Since the end of the Cold War, I just need to remind you that's not much more than a decade ago, a new generation of leaders has emerged in the developing world, freed from, very largely, from the memory and incubus of earlier colonization, whether this was from my country, France, Spain, Italy. Alongside, globalization has brought the prospect of fuller integration into a prosperous world economy. But it's come increasingly to be realized that the transformation that's possible can't be imposed from outside, from Washington or London or Brussels, and the attempt to impose it from outside can be highly counterproductive. In response to these changes, the international institutions are evolving a new approach to thinking about development that's more inclusive in its approach, and it's what Jim Wolfenson of the World Bank has called putting the country in the driver's seat, putting Morocco in the driver's seat. Stated in these terms, the goal is obviously attractive. The question is how it can be accomplished. If developing countries really are to be in the driver's seat, they have to have the capacity to analyse in a rigorous way the difficult economic and social issues they face, drawing on the best global thinking in doing so. Local researchers, perhaps here in this university, combining the knowledge of local conditions, local political, social structures, provide the best prospect for deriving development policies that are effective and enjoy broad support. The question isn't whether a developing country is open or closed to outside knowledge. It's a matter of being open to outside knowledge that's in a way that respects local autonomy. Let me just quote Gandhi, a long time away in history and a long time away in geography, but very relevant. He said, and I quote, "I don't want my house to be closed in on all sides and my windows to be stuffed, étouffé. I want the cultures of all lands to be blown about my house as freely as possible, but I refuse to be blown off my feet." Well, I want to suggest to you in particular, to the new graduates, only by being on one's feet from an intellectual standpoint can the local doers have the self-confidence to collect, assimilate, and adapt the external knowledge instead of being overwhelmed and rendered intellectually dependent and subservient, which you do not want to be. I've been talking about the nation state, and it's difficult for you, the graduates, to focus on that. But the parallels are, in my view, very powerful with the two earlier themes of tolerance and will for the individual. If a nation state, if a sovereign can intellectually sustain and develop its own culture and traditions in a way that's compatible with developments in the world more widely, the prospect that it will be in the driver's seat in its relations with the international community will be greatly enhanced. Plainly, the crucial uncertainty is what constitutes, the devil's always in the detail, compatible with developments in the world more widely, is what I said. It should not mean, and I can't emphasize this enough, it should not mean a homogenization of society and all its ways of doing things with the rest of the world, in particular with the United States and the main developed countries in Europe. That's what it doesn't mean. It does not mean homogenization. Keep your cultures. It does mean a society that commands international respect, because although it or you have your own distinctive culture and ways of doing things, they involve moderation, tolerance, democracy, the development of democratic institutions, and a will to work toward betterment both for your own communities internally and the use of your influence blindly in international dialogue. This is plainly a very demanding list, but a country that strives for it is much more likely to be left in the driver's seat by the international community and to be treated with intellectual generosity when an external shock happens than a country which doesn't aspire to those objectives. Can the developed countries and can international financial institutions that they effectively control and major global corporates be relied upon to accord an emerging economy understanding, respect and sensitivity in all their dealings with it? I'm afraid the answer is no. We can't be relied upon. I can't give an unequivocally positive answer. But what is, in my view, clear beyond doubt is that a country which fails the tolerance test and doesn't display will to contribute to resolution of its own problems will ultimately lose autonomy, increasing its dependency on others, and the overall terms of trade and its relationships with the wider community will move to its disadvantage. Well, I draw to a close. The analogy with the individual and the nation-state is surely complete. In leaving this university, dear graduates, you as well-educated individuals are embarking on a major new phase in your lives. I implore you to do so with tolerance and with will. The nation-state is at the opposite end of the spectrum, similar propositions apply. Morocco, through its long tradition of moderation and tolerance, and through the wise leadership that it enjoys in particular from His Majesty, is extraordinarily well placed now to nurture its own sovereignty as a respected and influential participant in the councils of world affairs. And those participants capable of making that contribution are now needed more than ever. Never has the need or opportunity been greater for well-motivated initiative at the level of the individual or the nation-state. Like the Chancellor, who put this, I thought, movingly, and I can't put it better, from the bottom of my heart, I'm honoured to have been able to address you on this very special day, and I wish you and your country great success in the times ahead. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sir David, for this enlightening and deep speech that deserves to be studied rather than listened to. بسرعة وجيزة أعرف أنه ربما طالب الوقت بالخريجين. سأورد ربما 3 أو 4 أفكار التي وردت في خطاب السير ديفيد ووكر. قال أولا أنه من دواعي اعتزازه أن يحضر بيننا للروابط التي تجمع بين المغرب وبريطانيا. قال عندما نخطو خطوة إلى الخلف نرقب الوضع العالمي المضطرب، لا يمكننا إلا أن نستنتج أن أكبر قوة مدمرة اليوم هي عدم التسامح، سواء كان المستهدف اليهود أو المسيحيون أو المسلمون أو أشخاص من عرق معين أو لون أو توجه سياسي. لقد اخترت الحديث عن عدم التسامح أولا ليس فقط لأننا نحتاج إلى أن نحتاط منه ومما يترتب عنه من أضرار، وإنما أيضا لأن بإمكانه مع مرور الوقت أن يرغم على التراجع والاندحار. بالطبع قال الفكرة الثانية، لكن التسامح لا يعني السلبية أو الرضا والقبول بما يعرض لنا دون أن نقد أو تحليل، وهذا يقوده إلى الموضوع الثاني وهو الدور الهام للمبادرة وقوة الإرادة التي تعتبر القوة المحركة للأفراد في حياة اليوم. لا يمكن لكل من أراد أن يكون مقاولا ناجحا، لكن وكما علمتنا التجارب فئة قليلة فقط سيكون بإمكانها أن تعرف ما بمقدورها فعله ما لم يكافحوا ويسلموا بأن الفشل في مرحلة معينة لا يعني الفشل في المراحل الأخرى. السؤال الجوهري ليس هو إن كان البلد النامي منفتح أو منغلق على المعرفة الخارجية، وإنما هو المهم هو أن يكون هذا الانفتاح على المعرفة انفتاح يعزز الاستقلال الذاتي. خاطب الخريجين قائلا إنكم بمغادرتكم لهذه الجامعة ستكونون قد بدأتم شوطا جديدا وكبيرا في حياتكم، وأدعوكم لأن تفعلوا الشيء ذاته مع التسامح والإرادة. لقد تشرفت بمخاطبتكم في هذا اليوم المتميز، وأتمنى لكم وللمغرب وافر النجاح فيما سيأتي من السنين. I am told that His Excellency Minister of Fisheries Said Shbatu has some urgent business to attend to and that he will be leaving us shortly, so I'm sure we will understand. لقد قيل لي أن معالي وزير الصيد البحري سعيد شبعتو واجهته ربما قضية يجب أن يتصدى لها الآن وسيضطر لمغادرتنا. شكرا لقدومكم معالي الوزير. The President of the University will now present a commemorative plaque to Sir David Walker. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Sir David. Dear graduates, it's your day, but now it's your moment. Now the time has come to recognize your efforts and reward your achievements. Part 2 of our ceremony will be the actual diploma award. This part of the ceremony will be supervised by our Vice President for Academic Affairs. لقد حان الآن وقت تسليم الشهادات للخريجين، ويشرف على هذا الجزء من الحفل السيد نائب الرئيس للشؤون الأكاديمية دكتور إدريس وعويشة.
Dear graduates, now comes the moment you've been very patiently, sometimes impatiently waiting for, but the time has come. I will introduce the deans to hand over the degrees to our graduates by level, and then by school, and then by merit, and within the merit category in alphabetical order. سيتقدم الخريجين للحصول على شواهدهم حسب المستوى وحسب الكلية ثم حسب الاستحقاق بترتيب أبجدي داخل خانة الاستحقاق. First, we are very pleased to have our first cohort of the executive MBA graduates, and I will ask Dr. Ahmed Driouchi, Dean of the School of Business Administration, to come forward. سي عمر عليبوش. حسن عاطف. عز الدين العمراني الإدريسي. إسماعيل الزهر. محمد فاتح. سعيد حيطان. محمد الحارتي حجي. الحسن حمري. محمد الرباع. محمد الصحار. Please join me in giving a special applause to this group of graduates who have They are our first executives who came back to school and perfectly assimilated themselves within the student life at our university. The second group, no less important, our regular MBA student, Mina Bzao. Amina Allali. هشام بن خياط زكاري. نسرين بناني. سهام بوجي. يونس تمغزود. Yes. مجد بوزوبع. شعار طاهري. حسن داسي. ريم الحنصالي. أحمد الكتاني الحميدي. هشام المدناوي. سهام اليغموري. عماد غمري. محمد منير هتمي. هشام الحياني. إيمان محمدي. كنزار رمال. هشام صافي الدين. هشام صاهر. زبيدة سملال. هدى صدراوي. منى إحيك. Please a special applause to our regular MBA students. This closes the category. And now I'll call on Dr. Najia Al-Alami from the coordinator, graduate coordinator of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, to hand over the diplomas to our graduate students. والآن دبلوم الدراسات العليا في العلوم الإنسانية التطبيقية والدراسات الدولية والدبلوماسية، وتتقدم الأستاذة ناجية العالمي منسقة الدراسات العليا بكلية العلوم الإنسانية والاجتماعية. Masters in Applied Humanities عمراوي كوتر. يسرى بن شريف. منى أوبيه. ودبلوم الدراسات الدولية والدبلوماسية أول فوج الخريجين, the first cohort of international study, MA in International Studies and Diplomacy. شريف الشرقاوي. منى المخفي. محمد طه الوردي. لبنى وفاء فكري. حسنان ناجي. أمال نهامي. كريمة وهبي. أحمد نوري سليمي. نسيم تروغي. سناء زيتي. And this closes our Masters in International Studies and Diplomacy. Please, a special applause. And I invite Dr. Amin Ben Said, Dean of the School of Science and Engineering, to come up and hand out the diplomas. Master of Science in Computer Networks, Samir Amiri. Shakir Taibi. Hafida Fota. Thank you, Dr. Ben Said. And now we move to the bachelors, the majority of our students. And we start with the social sciences. And I'll invite Dr. John Shoup, the undergraduate coordinator. I will be mentioning the distinction, and the distinction is summa cum laude, ممتاز, magna cum laude, جيد جدا, cum laude, جيد. عبلة بن سليمان, cum laude. نجاة النجي. بشرى الصاوي. Thank you, Dr. Shoup. I'll invite again Dr. Amin Ben Said. درجة البكالوريوس علوم في كلية العلوم والهندسة Bachelor of Science in General Engineering. لميا لحلو ماغنا كوم لاودي. إيمان ماموني ماغنا كوم لاودي جيد جدا. سكينة تاجي ماغنا كوم لاودي. رشيد العبد اللهوي كوم لاودي. نوال بن طويلة كوم لاودي. سمير نقوس كوم لاودي. ليلى عادل. عماد علامي فتوحي. سناء عمور. زينب عرشان. بشرى محمد بن القاسم الزواي. عصام بن ستيتو. سفيان الشرقاوي جواد. عمر ديدي. نسرين العباسي الشقارة. خالد العجلي. حنان فرادي. هشام فرطال إدريسي. مريم غانمي. علي جكمي. إدريس الجبلي. إيمان الحجازي. عادل العريشي. ندى لقاش. عبد الله المالطي. نوفل مهاجر. إبراهيم يوسف وكريم. Please special applause to this category and we'll move on to the next. Last and literally not least, the largest group is the BBA. So may I call Dr. Ahmed Driouchi again. May I call Dean Ahmed Driouchi to come up and hand over the diplomas. Lydia Awani Soma Cum Laude, Mumtaz. المصطفى أزلماد ممتاز سوما كوم لاودي. محمد العوفي سوما كوم لاودي. جيد جدا ماغنا كوم لاودي هزار العلامي. عادل المطالبي ماغنا كوم لاودي. منصف صفار ماغنا كوم لاودي. جيد كوم لاودي محمد أسوار. محمد حسن بناني كوم لاودي. إيمان بن طالب كوم لاودي. أمال بويخورس كوم لاودي. رشيد بوطعام كوم لاودي. Well-deserved special applause. Elias Dinia cum laude. ملاك البغدادي كوم لاودي. نبيلة البخاري كوم لاودي. إبراهيم الكامل كوم لاودي. سناء الوالي كوم لاودي. absent. Okay. نسرين الخليع كوم لاودي. عثمان موس كوم لاودي. مريم زعلك التازي كوم لاودي. مريم عيدة الراوي كوم لاودي. أسامة الصنهاجي كوم لاودي. محمد أمين أبجا. عمر عمر. فهد أنشوم. إحسان أصبان. وصال عبد السلام الصيد. سفيان برقميش. يوسف بلغيتي علوي. فيصل باليزيد. منيا بن دنكير. رشيد بن جلون. المهدي بقالي. يونس بجوان. نسرين بوعبيد. محمد أمين بوقا. لمياء الشامي. محمد شنقاو. لمياء دندون. أشرف دندون. عبد الحكيم داريد. فاطمة الزهراء ظريف. فاطمة الزهراء الدرفوفي. عفاف دياني. محمد أنوار العافي. هشام القادري بودجيش. هدى الخياطي. لمياء المحب. عبد العالي الراجي شهيد. طارق قابيس. طارق الغزلاني. جليلة غريران. نجم حضروني. سفيان حمزاوي. علي حيرش. هشام الجعيدي. شرف خليفي. يوسف الحجوجي إدريسي. مريم العريشي. محمد لوكيلي الإدريسي. رجاء مزالة. فيصل محدوك. يوسف ماهر. خاتمة محمودي. مها مجد. إيمان معامة. إيمان مجاب. محمد النها. ياسمين الودغيري. نبيل أوشاغور. إيمان رضوان. نورا صدقي. محمد ربيع السعيدي. نسرين الطاهري. بوتينة التازي. ليلى اليحيوي. بدرة يوسفي. نوال الزيدي. محمد توفيق الزمراني. This, ladies and gentlemen, closes our list of graduates. Please give a special applause to 2002 graduates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, dear graduates. Ladies, please be seated. تفضلوا بالجلوس. Not you, graduates. You remain standing. Now that you've been honored, I'd like each one of you to look in the room and look for those parents that made it all possible. And with the language of your eyes, say thank you. The class of 2002 selected a student to be their spokesperson, and that student will come up here in front of you and deliver a speech of the class of 2002. لقد اختار خريجو فوج 2002 طالبة من بينهم لتلقي كلمة الخريجين أمامكم. الطالبة عبلة بن سليمان.
I just need a few seconds just to get back my emotions in place. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, professors, family, friends, and fellow graduates, good morning. I am honored to address you today on behalf of the graduating students of Akhawayn University. I would like to thank all the parents, spouses, families, and friends who encouraged and supported us as we work towards our graduate degrees. I would especially like to thank my own family here present. I would also like to thank all of the staff members who always seemed to be there when confused students needed help. And finally, I would like to thank the Akhawayn University faculty members who served us as our instructors, mentors, and friends. Thank you. As I think back on the 4 years I spent at AUI, my mind is filled with happy, sad, frustrating, and humorous memories. Dear parents, do you remember when you came for the first time to this university, bringing us to register and waiting in a 4-hour line? And today, it is us, the cohort of 2002, that bring you to take part in this commemorating event representing our success. And to my fellow graduates, do you remember coming for the first time to this university? Most of us didn't know one another. Now, after several years of intense interaction, we have come to form one big family. A diversified family from various cultures and subcultures. We have even created our own lingo, peculiar to AUI. How many of you remember making excuses for fake absences? Don't be shy, go, raise your hands, come on. How many of you have dropped courses to avoid a freaky or excessively strict teacher? Or just simply to avoid a heavy course load? Do you remember, my fellow graduates, pulling endless full nights for an exam, paper, or project? Tears of fear and frustration have filled our eyes. Now, as I look at you, all I see are tears of joy. We have all waited for this day to come so we can go on with our lives as university graduates. For some of us, this future will be full of new and exciting events. Some might return to continue their studies for a higher degree. Others might choose to apply all they have learned and find a job in the real world. Whichever path we choose, decisions and change are inevitable. In our years of education, we have had to make many decisions. Some of these choices have had little effect on our lives, but there have been a few that have been life-altering, enough to determine our future. We can use what we have learned from these experiences to influence a lifetime of choices. Changes will come in the form of a new environment, lifestyle, or schedule. You can't hide from these changes. They will always come along with the decisions that you make. We, graduates of AUI, should not fear change. We are to make the best of it. You should not only make the best of these changes, but also of our lives. Whatever life brings us, always remember, the future is what we make of it. However, the real message that I would like to leave to the class of 2002 is to undertake whatever our future holds to the best of our ability. I'm standing up here today, not because I am the smartest person, but because I took everything that our university had to offer in stride. Even on the nights when I wouldn't get to my room till midnight after extracurricular events, I still found some time to finish my work. I guess what I am trying to say is, as we move on into the next stage of our lives, we will be faced with even more distractions than we could have ever imagined. Up until now, life has been pretty easy. But now that we are moving into another stage of our lives, we will be burdened with new responsibilities and commitments. If there is any hope for any one of us to succeed at what we have chosen to undertake, we are going to have to stay focused and use everything we have learned thus far. If we don't, harsh reality of the world will catch us with our back turned. We will never have the slightest clue what hit us. So work hard, face each task with ambition, but most importantly, enjoy life. There is one more thing that I would like to leave with the class of 2002. Each and every one of us should strive to become a hero. I am simply saying that we need to live our lives so that others watching can admire our actions. As we sit here today, heroes surround us. Teachers, parents, and friends fill this room. Each one of them is a hero. They have strived to give us all the help that they can offer. We need to repay them by going out and becoming the most successful person we can. By doing this, we too will become heroes. Our actions will someday have a positive effect on the life of another human being. This is the type of hero we need to become, one that gives the world all we have to offer. And one last request from the graduating students of AUI. Mr. President, may we have the privilege to dip into the new AUI swimming pool after years of waiting for its completion. Once again, dear fellow graduates, congratulations to all of us, the cohort of 2002. أباؤنا الأعزاء، هنيئا لكم ولأبنائكم وشكرا.
Thank you, Abla. A well-deserved hug from your daughter, I believe. Yes? Good. توجهت الخريجة عبلة بن سليمان بالشكر نيابة عن خريجي الفوج الخامس إلى آباء الطلبة وأسرهم وأصدقائهم على الدعم الذي قدموه لهم خلال فترة دراستهم. كما أثنت على جميع موظفي الجامعة والأساتذة. ذكرت بالمواقف الصعبة واللحظات الحرجة التي واجهت الطلبة في دراستهم والخيارات التي واجهوها والتي سيكون لها دون شك أثر على مستقبلهم. نصيحتها للخريجين كانت أن يبذلوا ما بوسعهم وأن يثابروا ويواجهوا الحياة بطموح وإصرار على النجاح، وأن يستفيدوا مما تمنحه الحياة لهم، وأن يكونوا أبطالاً يعطون العالم كل ما يستطيعون. كان لها رجاء أخير مقدم للسيد رئيس الجامعة، هو ارتماء في مسبح الجامعة الجديد الذي طال انتظاره. Thank you again, Abla, and thank you, dear graduates. Now, as we come, yes. AUI, very good, thank you. As we approach the conclusion of our ceremony, I'd like to invite all of you to stand for the national anthem of Morocco. Thank you. Please be seated while the graduates make their exit from the building. تفضلوا بالجلوس حتى يغادر الخريجون قاعة الاحتفال. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Two quick announcements. You're invited to lunch on the soccer field. الآن المشاركون مدعوون لحفل غداء على ملعب كرة القدم. Second announcement is that tonight there will be a party. For those who would like to join us, there will be a show right here in this building and a music show outside the restaurant. Thank you very much, Excellencies, for coming. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.